Everybody's so loud, I guess I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I appreciate everyone being here this evening. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees of San Angelo Independent School District held Monday, August the 17th. We appreciate, like I said, everyone being here. The first item on our agenda is to establish a quorum of our board team. We're kind of spread out, but all of our board team is here in attendance. We appreciate everyone being here. Our second item on our agenda is our invocation. We're honored this evening to have Mr. Michael Tercero. He's the minister to students and young families at First Baptist Church, and he's going to lead us in our invocation.
Good afternoon. 1 Kings 3, Solomon asked for wisdom. I'd like to pray for wisdom for you guys tonight. So, God, thank you, God, so much, God, for who you are and for the things that you do in our lives, God, regardless of, God, how we treat you, God. And so, God, I just, God, thank you for this community, God, that you've blessed us with. God, thank you for San Angelo. God, I thank you that you've blessed this board, God, to lead it. And so, God, I just commit just wisdom on them, God. I just ask for wisdom for them to lead, God, God, just like Solomon did, and he was tested within that chapter, God, we know that. And so I ask for that same wisdom that would allow people to wonder in awe what San Angelo is doing and the things that we're doing. And so in the middle of all of this COVID, God, and just everything, God, I pray, God, for deep wisdom. God, I ask that you'd bless their families, God. You'd bless their marriages, God, their relationships, God, and their children. And God, I just ask that you, God, God would be over the stress of this job, God, for them physically and emotionally, God, of the decisions that they have to make, God. But God, thank you that they're all in agreement of doing what's best for San Angelo. And so, God, I just lift them up to you, God. I lift up this meeting to you, God. May you be honored and glorified today. We love you. We thank you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you being here very much. Our next items are pledges. We have students doing pledges during the school year, but I get to do them in the summer, so let's stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. I think I'll read our script if y'all don't mind. Good evening and welcome. President of the Board of Trustees of the San Angelo Independent School District, I would like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting. I also welcome those of you who might be watching the tape of this meeting on our public access channel, Channel 4. We appreciate your interest in the students, in our students. All items that will be discussed at our meeting this evening have been posted as required by state law. Also, as you may be aware, our board team meets a minimum of 2 times per month, and most, if not all, the items on our agenda this evening have been previously discussed in an earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As members of the San Angelo Independent School District's Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from our superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the school district. Please keep in mind that our meeting is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in the public and not a meeting of the public. However, with that in mind, we have an item on each one of our meeting agendas that allows anyone present who wishes to speak to our board team an opportunity to do so. I'll make certain that we give everyone an opportunity to speak on any item not listed on our agenda. Additionally, prior to taking any votes, I'll ask audience members if they would like to make any comments. Anyone wishing to make comments on any agenda item should do their best to limit their comments to 5 minutes. In compliance with Texas state law, these proceedings are recorded and will become a part of SAISD's permanent legal record. In order that our tape might adequately reflect the proceedings, I ask that you please refrain from talking while others might be speaking. I also ask, as I remind my fellow board members, to please turn off or silence their cell phones at this particular time. Again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us here this evening. We appreciate your interest in the activities of our students and the business of our school district. We have a number of folks that, when we get to that part of our agenda, that are going to want to make comments on our, that's item 5 on our agenda. We want to make sure we hear from everyone. We want to make sure that we're cordial while everyone else is speaking, whether you agree or disagree with what they happen to be saying. So if you'll work real hard to do that, I'd appreciate that. Also, we've been about, probably 3 weeks, the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had a number of folks that have chosen to come up and speak to us as a board team, and we appreciate those comments, but we want to make sure that we limit those comments to 5 minutes. We've had a couple of folks that their watch didn't work very well, so they spoke more than 5 minutes, and really that's not fair to anybody else that's prepared their comments and made sure that they could make the comments in 5 minutes or less. So Ms. Hopkins is going to help me with that, and the last thing I want to do is interrupt you. So Ms. Hopkins is going to kind of wave at me, and then I'll just say if you could finish your thoughts in the next 30 seconds, so we would appreciate it. And I think we'll work pretty smoothly through that. So I appreciate, again, everybody being here to speak. Our next item on our agenda is item 4, which is our minutes. Do we have a motion to approve our minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mr. Hernandez to approve the minutes of our July 13th special finance and pre-agenda board meeting. Also that evening on July 13th, 2020, we had a board training, and July 20th of 2020, we had our regular board meeting. So those are the 3 minutes that we're approving. Any comments or questions from our board team concerning our minutes? Any public comment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 5, and this is for public comment. So we have a number of folks who've signed up. If you didn't sign up, we're still welcome your comments. We just need to make sure we get your name and address and contact information prior to you making those comments. So the first person I have is, and I might not be able to read everyone's writing exactly as their name is, but I think it's Chelsea Hurd. And Chelsea, if you'll come to the microphone and again, try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. And we really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Chelsea Hurd. I'm a 6th-generation Texan. My father is a retired Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army. My husband is a Purple Heart recipient. I love my country. I love my heritage. I love learning about our history. I studied American history at ASU, and I love our community. I felt the need to preface my statement with those opening statements because it's important to clarify this isn't about political affiliation, it's about moral obligation. Conservatism and morality are no longer synonymous. That was based on a pillar of upholding tradition, and that is a noble cause, except for when tradition includes racism, except when tradition is oppressive and microaggressions, except when the tradition is indoctrinating a new generation of hate. Those in favor of renaming the school know history well. We aren't erasing history. We are conveniently skipping over the shameful parts. I do not support oppression or ownership over humans. I certainly don't support a historical failure as representation for my daughter, a 6th grader, at the current school name and mascot. The current name and mascot are offensive to any person of color and group of oppressed people, including the many natives to this community who are Hispanic or indigenous. The Civil War and its leaders are in the Texas curriculum. Students attending Glenn and Lincoln are taught the same material as at Robert E. Lee Middle School. Again, history is not being erased. The glorification of destructive ideologies, however, hopefully will be. As a student of history, it is paramount to teach our children about Robert E. Lee and his contributions to our country. It is important so they can correctly identify oppression and speak out against it. We must educate our children to ensure another civil war will never stay in this country. These lessons are so important in a time like this. It is easy for privileged people of all origins to say slavery and segregation were evil now, but when faced with systemic racism of today, they deny it exists. Continuing to glorify traitors against our country by protecting school names in their honor is oppression. It sends a message to people of color that they matter less or not at all. If you want the race wars, protests, riots to cease, it starts with ending microaggressions like naming schools after oppressive leaders. Middle schoolers can be cruel all on their own. Can you imagine being a middle school athlete with the name of the master who owned your family 165 years ago across your chest? Or the name of a man who fought to capture and kill your Native American or Mexican ancestors 175 years ago? Can you imagine the taunts you would hear from the opposing team? If you can't, your privilege has become too deceitful for your own good. Unfortunately, racism is very real even in 2020, especially in San Angelo. My heart is broken to see the ugliness defended in my community because I grew up in an extremely diverse yet equally equitable subgroup. As the child of a soldier, I grew up running in and out of houses with wildly differing cultures all next to each other, and yet everyone was respectful and mindful of the beautiful diversity among us. That doesn't always happen here in San Angelo. When I moved here to attend ASU in the early 2000s, I was told for the first time that I was brown. It was pointed out to me as a negative quality. And to add insult to injury, I was told by brown people that I was too white. I learned about racism firsthand at the age of 18 when I moved to San Angelo, Texas, after living all around the world. I know I am lucky to have lived the life of privilege I have, even as a brown person. I'm also very aware that my experience has not been shared by all brown people. This is why I advocate unapologetically for the oppressed person, regardless of race, sex, religion, or age. We as San Angelo residents have the opportunity to do better, so let's do better. We have the opportunity to show our students that real leaders command respect instead of demanding it. Command respect by demanding students be represented respectfully. It's time to condemn the use of Robert E. Lee Robles as representation for the children of my neighborhood. I understand there is a financial burden that comes with this change, but this is not justification to keep systemic racism in place. I would love my tax dollars to improve the roads, making my daily commute smoother, but I also want every child in my neighborhood to feel as valued as their most privileged classmate with equal and equitable representation. The children of my community are more important than the tires on my car, and I hope you feel the same. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd. I appreciate those comments. Next on my list is Caleb Walker. Mr. Walker. Okay. Gone. Okay, our next person on my list is Anna Bartosh. Thank you, Ms. Bartosh.
Good afternoon. I'm here to speak in favor of keeping the name of Lee Junior High. Several years ago, we were privileged to be able to go to Germany and visit the concentration camp Dachau. Now, our guide told us that the children of Munich all had to go on a field trip to Dachau. Why, we ask? So they would never forget. And I would think that having a concentration camp near you would be a constant reminder of the atrocities that can happen. So I'm here to speak in favor of keeping our history, keeping the name. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bartosh. Appreciate those comments. Our next person is Nelda Nowlin. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nowlin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Nelda Allen. My voice may be a little rough right now after having my mask on. I taught school for 46 years, and I'm speaking also with regard to the change of the name of Robert E. Lee Middle School. Each of us brings our own background experiences with regard to any issue, as the former speaker has said. Therefore, I want to tell the board why I look at this differently. In 1983, Governor Mark White appointed Dallas businessman H. Ross Perot to head a commission on schools. Most people remember that task force that he chaired because of no pass, no play. But the changes in education in Texas went much deeper than that. Perot wanted to see equality in education. In order to bring about that sweeping change, the Commission of Education, Raymond and Bynum, established a committee to write a framework by which all Texas schools would teach basic skills in English and math at each grade level. Perot wanted tests developed to show that schools were indeed teaching those skills and that all students were mastering them. In 1984, I received a 10-year appointment to the 20-member committee to write the framework for English language arts by Governor Mark White and Commissioner of Education Bynum. I was reappointed to that committee in 1994, and so it began. That framework came to be known as Essential Elements and then TEACS. The test that was created came to be known as TABS, TEAMS, TACS, and finally the STAR test. The test came to include ELA reading, mathematics, writing, social studies, and science as well. End of course exams were also added. In the beginning, the passing grade on those tests was a 70. But before long, because kids weren't doing well in Texas, they lowered the passing grade to 62. Finally, the state set 4 levels: master's grade level, meets grade level or above, approaches grade level or above, and fails to meet grade level. What does that mean? All tests have different percentage scores for meeting that level. So I send you to the TEA website for those specifics. The state of Texas is now giving all schools within a district letter grades, A, B, C, D, F. So parents and community members can see how the district is doing. So let's look at how San Angelo ISD is doing. Some schools are doing great, but 4 elementary schools have a grade of F, as well as 1 middle school has a grade of F. 2 elementary schools and 1 middle school have a D. These grades come directly from the Texas Education website. Now let's turn to the middle school Lee specifically. Lee has a grade of D, so let's break that down further. In 2019, only 38% of the students met grade level in ELA reading. Only 39% at Lee met grade level in mathematics. Only 28% met grade level in writing. 50% met grade level in science. And only 25% met grade level in social studies. Remember, these tests were created in order to provide equality in education throughout the state of Texas. So when someone looks at you and says, oh, we just don't look at one test on one day, they're missing the point. The point was to provide equality in education for all students in every single school. Now, in order to make the changes that that's going to require, it's going to cost money. And it only spends once. Frankly, and I went to Lee, but the name on a building doesn't mean as much to me as the education that each and every student in that building is receiving. My husband had a saying, honey, it only spends once. The San Angelo ISD School Board has been entrusted by taxpayers to spend their tax dollars in a way that most benefits student learning. Please don't lose sight of the fact that it only spends once, and make your decisions accordingly.
Thank you. The next person I have on my list is Lana Primo. Miss Primo, thank you.
Hello, my name is Lana Primo of San Angelo, and this is the 3rd time I'm speaking to you on behalf of the name changes for Lee, and now including Reagan Elementary. I want to thank y'all by implementing the Engaging Equity program, and I had a chance to be a part of the focus group on August 4th, and I enjoyed that. Dr. Orr said something that really stuck with me, and he said who was included in these decisions when the schools were being named and who was excluded in those decisions. And I think that really brings us down to why we're here tonight. My previous comments were directed to the board, but tonight I'd like to address more of the community, specifically to those in attendance of the protest at Lee on August 8th, to support the retention of the name. I actually share a lot in common with the people that were there. I was born in San Angelo. I was raised in San Angelo. I went to SAISD schools, including Lee. My children have gone to Lee, but I think that's about where the similarities end. My response to the concern about the representation of our public schools was one of concern. How can we begin to repair the damage that has been inflicted over time? At the July 20th board meeting, Shirley Spears, the president of the NAACP, spoke of growing up during the civil rights movement as a black girl. She said, "You can empathize, but, quote, you cannot adequately speak to the discrimination, the horror, and how it hurts to be not considered and invisible in America," end quote. That brings me to Debbie Cross, the organizer of the protest. And Debbie, whether you're here tonight or not, or whether you heard that specific quote or not, your response to the petition was to show up on a public school campus, brandishing Confederate flags, and wearing shirts with pictures and quotes from Lee, and sporting gear, supporting the 45th president, another famous white racist. And you said, quote, "I can guarantee you that no one that walked these halls ever felt oppressed, felt threatened, felt the need for therapy after they went to school here," end quote. Really? The school's been open for 71 years, and you speak for every child, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or other that attended school there? Nope, I don't think so. No, you can guarantee that your white experience, you never felt threatened or oppressed. I hear a lot of y'all say that you love your community and you love San Angelo, but your actions and your words say that you care about white San Angelo. I will give you this. You proved several arguments valid for the name change by the protest. The name does represent racism, it does support divisiveness, and it needs to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker that signed up that wishes to speak is Ms. Casper, Mary Casper.
Good evening, Mr. Lehman, board. This is an odd situation that we're in, or actually it isn't very odd, given today's culture. We've got people that want to erase history. We've got people that want to cancel people. We've got people that want white people to apologize for everything, even things that happened 175 years ago. Our world has changed immensely. We are now living in an environment created by George Orwell's 1984, a dash of Robin Cook's 2019 book Contagion, and many chapters of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, along with Cloward and Piven, Piven, thrown in for good measure. If you don't know who Saul Alinsky is, or Cloward and Piven, I suggest you find out, because it's hitting you in the face right now. This name change is not about the name change. That is not the issue. The issue is power. And that's the first rule of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. He mentioned, he gave the foreword in this book in honor of Satan as the first radical who got his own following. shall we say, the fallen angel. They took that out, by the way, the dedication, in his new reprint. The board had a request brought before it to change the name. It wasn't a request. It is a threat. It is a threat to each one of you. It is a threat to each member of administration. It is a threat to each person in this room. It is a threat to each citizen of San Angelo and of Tom Green County. And one of the things that they are going to do is they are going to try and bring every single one of us down by name calling, by making fun of us. If we do not agree with them, they are going to come after you. One way or another, they're going to try to belittle you. The person that brought this already thinks that the people of San Angelo have absolutely no sense of history, no idea of what is on the right or the wrong side of history. Got news for you. There is no right side of history. There is no wrong side of history. There is only history. They say that they do not want to erase history. History is already being erased. Read Howard Zinn's book. Look up the 1619 project that is going on right now. Look at any of the world history books. You take a look at them, and many of them that are being brought before the school boards erase Israel, one of the great religions of the world. They don't even mention it anymore. And what is actually Israel is now labeled Palestine. That's not right. That's erasing history. They change history. Look at what they say about the 9/11. Somebody did something. Nobody mentions anymore. They're afraid to because we know who's going to come after you. Because nobody wants to mention that it was Islamic terrorists that hijacked 3 planes and flew them into the ground. Now, what does this have to do with San Angelo? They want power, strictly power. You give in to them, you give them more power. The change of the name of Lee, and she mentioned Reagan, is only the first domino. They are going to go after every single school name in the South that is connected to the Southern culture. Every single one. And they're just waiting to go after Beauregard, Chadbourne, Tom Green County, Sul Ross, you name it, Reagan, all of them. Now you have to decide, are you going to give in to this? Are you going to, what I think would be a perfect solution is bringing it before the voters. I would try very, very hard to find a way to do that. We have an election coming up in May 2021. So there's no extra cost. That would provide a cooling down period. And you could have it to the voters, and the people will have spoken by then. Again, let me remind you, this is power, and that's all it is. And we can take the national attention. We've had it before, and I would much rather be known as a town that stood up against the BLM and the radicals instead of somebody that caved into them. Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Casper.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Casper, our next person that signed up is Jesse Ramon. Probably the best way to handle this, and I should have said this initially, but we need to try to keep mentioning specific people out of this and talk about issues rather than people that are sitting in the room. I mean, we can talk all we want to about historical figures and things like that, but we don't need to be, it's not showing proper respect for each other if we're if we have control of the microphone and we start talking poorly about others that are in the room. So let's try to move forward in that manner.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. That's pretty much what we've seen here today. So just to remind you who I am, Jesse Ramon. I approached this board 2 months ago with a proposal to rename Robert Lee Middle School. I want to extend my thanks and appreciation for the initiative the school board has developed in reaction to that proposal and its original petition that's to this day has gained almost 14,000 signatures in favor of renaming that school. The focus groups, the public summits, and soon-to-be-released survey reaffirm your, that you're listening to us and that you're open to the proposal, as it's clear that you're taking, very extensively and a methodical approach to this very sensitive topic. I've attended a number of the functions, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to share my thoughts and opinions on the matter, in addition to hearing from others, both like-minded and that disagree with this topic. So one thing remains consistent when arguing to keep the name, however, is the position of supposedly erasing history, and that's what we've heard tonight. I can assure you, like I did back in June, that we are not, in fact, erasing history. History will continue to be preserved in the context of the history books that Robert Lee Middle Schoolers read in class, in addition to countless museums and informative literature, both electronic and in paper, many of which you were provided today. With the added use of technology, it makes it easier and easier for you to educate yourself on topics that you find interesting. One being podcasts that I've recently caught a number of episodes related to the topic of Robert Lee and the Civil War. So a lot of what I've read on social media recently insinuates that students need to learn the real history of the Civil War, which is almost always argued by an older Caucasian male who is self-proclaimed as a Civil War buff and insists that the war was only about states' rights. So even if this were partially true, I think Dr. Pierce and many other legitimate historians, not just Facebook warriors, have confirmed that not to be true. Even if we were to entertain this idea for just a moment that it was partially true, the fact still remains that there was arguments over states' rights, and part of the states' rights was the right to own slaves. So this seems to be an excusable endeavor that the opposing side continues to present by parading Robert Lee's many accomplishments as a wartime hero. And I think this only adds to the lightheartedness and the disregard to human rights at its core. This is, in fact, inexcusable and has been recognized for over a century. This would explain the many attempts to rewrite history in the form of revisionism. Whichever way you decide to spin this, the fact remains Robert Lee owned slaves. He refused to free those slaves, and he killed many Americans over the right to own slaves. I find it irresponsible for us to debate over the character of a man and his right to be on a public school building that was originally built to exclude children of color. Lee's elevation is a key part of the 150-year-old propaganda campaign designed to erase slavery as the cause for the war and whitewash the Confederacy's true cause to be a noble one. The ideology is known as the lost cause, and it's provided a foundation on which Southerners built the Jim Crow era. Despite the frequent interruptions and outbursts in these virtual meetings, I've had the opportunity to listen to those that oppose my petition, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to hear their thoughts. In fact, shortly after the last meeting I had with two older women who opposed my petition, I received Facebook requests from both of them thanking me for being considerate and a respectable citizen with the capacity to listen and engage, which is exactly what those meetings are intended for. If other interactions like that occurred, I think compromise and progression is better achieved. What I learned from these meetings is that many don't have a significant reason for opposing the change aside from it being an established part of San Angelo that many attended. I understand that completely, and I want to remind you that other schools have been torn down and renamed for less ethical reasons. I'm here today to remind you of our voice and presence. You have seen many of the same faces in the past 2 months, and I cannot say the same for the ever-changing group of counter-protesters, both in which are not here tonight. Where's the original petitioner who created the petition to challenge mine? The one that created the other petition last weekend and protested? She's not here either. I apologize as a parent of an SAISD student for not being more involved, but I promise to be more moving forward. Not only is my child's education pivotal and her comprehension of as a minority is important in the predominantly white school. In the first paragraph of my petition, I originally
Mr.
explained
Ramon,
why I created
Mr. Ramon,
Yes,
excuse
sir.
me, could you wrap up your comments in about 30 seconds?
Sure.
Thank you.
So to end, I reached out to my daughter to get her thoughts and opinions on why she thinks the name should be changed, and I just want to end with that. I asked her how she felt about slavery. She said that she thought it was wrong because we're all human and should be treated equally. I asked her if she thought the school should be renamed, and if so, why. She said yes, because it should be changed because he was a bad man, he owned slaves, and the school does not and should not represent slavery. So again, that's coming from an 11-year-old. So for her ability to comprehend what that name of the school means, I think should kind of add context to what some of these adults might be lacking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. Our next person wishing to make comments is Ms. Spears, Charlie Spears.
Good evening to the board president and to all of the members present on the board and to the audience this evening. On behalf of the members of the San Angelo NAACP, I am here as the local president to again provide comments on this very sensitive matter. We appreciate the time and energy that the SAISD faculty and staff have taken to create a process that's fair, where every citizen has the opportunity to be heard through the engaging equity process. The NAACP chapter applauds you for ensuring that there is truly a process we can point to that demonstrates diversity, inclusion, and most of all, equity. Your actions point to the fact that you not only recognize the differences of opinion, but that you are actively listening and creating an environment where ideas can be a part of the solution. As a senior-aged, over 60 African-American woman who experienced racism and segregation, unlike some of my peers who are over 60 sitting in this audience this evening, I know all too well the impacts that discrimination, albeit subtle, can have on the minds of people and carry on for generations, such as where we are today with Reagan and Lee schools. Through research, time and time again, the American story has been captured in books, and the spin of those stories often have satisfied only the authors or the publishers. Today, we are at a critical point in our local history to demonstrate that we are truly, as we say, stronger together. Today, it is time to tell the story accurately and to be sensitive to the harm that we may have caused for more than 60 years on the countless students, faculty, and staff who have passed through the halls of Reagan Elementary and Lee Junior High. Today, we must be honest in our understanding of what these two men stood for in our attempts to have a more perfect union in America. We must be clear in our education of our current students, parents, and other citizens of San Angelo that the Confederacy was created out of hatred and fear, and that the reason that we even had a civil war was truly about slavery and economics. We must ask ourselves whether we continue to use hurtful and harmful names such as rebel and honor men or women who committed treason against their country, or whether it is more important to educate our community with truth. It's very easy to find truth today, and just as it's easy to twist it. What often does not change is the impact of the facts of negative activity in the hearts, minds, and souls of those who those negative statements are directed. There are facts that I could go on and on, but we already know, everybody in this room, that General Robert E. Lee was a slaveholder like his father. We already know that he's not even from Texas. Why are we so set on giving him honor? And we already know that he is not, never was, a hero and anyone that we should suggest children admire. Fact, John Reagan, when Abraham Lincoln was elected in November 1860, the breakup of the Union began. In 1861, Reagan resigned his congressional seat because of biases, racism, and discrimination. Texas withdrew from the Union on February the 2nd, and 2 days later, delegates elected Reagan, one of the state's 7 representatives, to the secession convention in Montgomery, Alabama. I wouldn't consider him a hero either.
Ms. Spears, could you wrap your
I
thoughts
sure
up in
can.
30 seconds, please, ma'am?
I sure can, thank you. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People has been the driving force with other partners across this great country and world to change the landscape of America by making it change laws, optics, perspectives, and describe honor for all citizens who respect the ideals of a great society since 1909. Locally, we have been on the scene for 75 years. So today, we repeat our support of the change of the names of both John Reagan Elementary and Robert E. Lee Middle School to finally appreciate the heartache and hardships that these Confederate supporters have caused to countless members of our community. Thank you for all that you do for the students and community of San Angelo, and we trust, as the prayer said, that you will be wise men and women in your decision-making. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spears. Our next person wishing to speak to the board is Cecil Caldera, Jr. Mr. Caldera? Someone outside, maybe? Okay, we'll move past that. The next name I have on my list is Mr. Gomez. Okay. Cecil, huh? Cecil Caldera Jr., and then the next one is Sam Gomez. Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Come on up to the microphone, and you may not have heard my comments earlier since you were outside. We're going to try to limit, or we're doing our best to limit everyone's comments to 5 minutes. And if you'll do that, we'd really appreciate it. And let us know who you are, since I announced 2 names, and I'm not sure which one you might be.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Cecil Caldera. I come to speak on the decision I know that's coming before you about changing the name to Lee Junior High School. The first thing I'd like to mention is I see a lot of people talking about the politics. I see you've heard it all already. But what about San Angelo? Because it's part of our history. Lee Junior High School, there's been rivalries in football. All the kids, and when we talk to each other now that we're adults, we say, oh, what junior high did you go to? I mean, it was tragic when y'all took away Edison, and we still refer to it as Edison. So we're like, and if you take away Lee, then that's taking part of our history. Because I can tell you, nobody's offended by the name, because it means something else to us. It's part of our town's history. And then if you did decide to change it, think of all the things that you would have to change. You'd have to change their mascot. You'd have to change the uniforms. You'd have to change all the words on the outside of the building. How much is that going to cost? And where's that money going to come from? And then after they do that, I heard them speaking about Reagan Elementary. Well, there's another one. And how much is that going to cost? And then if they go after into the other schools, it's just going to accumulate. Who's going to pay for this? We're just going to raise taxes, and you know nobody's going to like that. So we got to look at it that viewpoint also. What do you call it? As far as Lee goes and its name, I know that they're talking about slavery and all that. But is anyone speaking about what he did after the war? Before the war, he wrote a letter saying that he really didn't approve of slavery. And the reason that he was a general for the South was because he felt dedication to Virginia, where he was from. That was loyalty. After the war, he was one of the main people to try to reconstruct our torn country. And that's what a lot of people remember him for, too. And his family has served this country since the Revolution. When my dad was coming back from Vietnam, he said that when he stopped at Fort Bragg, he met a young lady there, and she was directly related to him. His granddaughter, I believe is what he said. So they're still serving our country. So are you going to disrespect not only his name, but his family? Because everybody's talking about him, but what about the things he did afterwards and what his family's still doing till today? Because that's legacy. So people want to tarnish his legacy. I think I'll just go ahead and stop here, but I want to read you a letter that I printed. It's from our President Eisenhower, because somebody asked him this very question about Lee and why he had a portrait of him in his office. The letter was from a Dr. Scott. He said, "Respecting your august inquiry calling attention to my often expressed admiration for General Robert E. Lee, I would say first that we need to understand that at the time of the war between the states, the issue of secession had remained unresolved for more than 70 years. Men of probity, character, and public standing, and unquestioned loyalty, both North and South. Disagreed over the issue as a matter of principle from the day our Constitution was adopted. General Robert E. Lee was, in my estimation, one of the supremely gifted men produced by our nation. He believed unswervingly in the United States Constitution. The validity of his cause, which until 1865 was still an arguable question in America. He was posed an inspiring leader, true to the high trust reposed in him by millions of his fellow citizens. He was thoughtful, yet demanding of his officers and men, forbearing with captured enemies, but ingenious, unrelenting, and personally courageous in battle, and never disheartened by a reverse or obstacle. Through all his many trials, he remained selfless almost to a fault, unfailing in his faith and in his God. Taken together, he was noble as a leader and as a man, and unsullied as I read the pages of our history. From deep conviction, I simply say this: a nation of men of Lee's caliber would be unconquerable in spirit and soul. Indeed, to the degree that present-day American youth will strive to emulate his rare qualities, including his devotion to this land as revealed in his painstaking efforts to help heal the nation's wounds once the bitter struggle was over. In our own time of danger in a divided world will be strengthened and our love of freedom sustained. Such are the reasons that I proudly display the picture of this great American on my office wall. Sincerely,
Thank you, Mr. Caldera. Could you wrap your comments up in like 15 or 20 more seconds?
All right, sir. I just think that it would be wrong, not only to the citizens of San Angelo, but to our great country if we disrespected the legacy of the Lees by changing the name of the school or any of the other schools. They're there for a reason. In the past, they chose to put these names on these schools because they were great American. Don't take that from them.
Thank you, Mr. Caldera. We appreciate you being here. Mr. Gomez? Sam Gomez, thank you for being here, Mr. Gomez.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm not a great speaker. I didn't write it down, nothing or anything like that, but I'm here to say about history. We all got history. I mean, for those that have not sinned, cast their first stone, right? I got a history. If I put it on my arms, my history, for being locked up or something, I'd have to cut off my arms, right? But I'm under God's grace. I was forgiven by God. Who's to judge Robert E. Lee for what he did? He was just serving his country at the time. That's what he figured. So who's to judge each other about what we got going on from our past? Sometimes, once in a while, I open a soup, because I was in jail a long time ago. I open a soup to remember that history. That way I won't go back to history. The same people that are bringing this history, trying to bring history and taking down our signs, they're the same ones that are trying to defund the police, same ones that are allowing men to walk in the bathrooms with our children, and the same ones that are trying to tear down the flags and burning flags. They're the same people that are just trying to start an agenda for themselves. I don't believe in that. I believe that history should be remembered and make sure don't go back to the history. Don't go to socialism. Don't go to none of that stuff. We need to make America free, make America great again. That's all I got to say. Robert E. Lee was a good junior high. My kids went to junior high there, and they came out pretty good. I mean, I know a lot of people went to Robert E. Lee, Glenn Junior High. John H. Reagan, I went to John H. Reagan. I was a bad kid when I was there for a while. I like to fight and stuff like that, but none of them kids that I grew up with remember that. They still love me for who I am. They know I'm a person. They know I finished school. John H. Reagan, at least, maybe not high school, but still. They know I was a good person, and who I am now today is who I am. Changing the history would be very sad for this town. Once they do that, who's going to pay? The taxpayers are going to pay for all the name changing and everything. So I think it's better to keep Lee Junior High the way it is. Next thing they're going to want to do, they're going to change the name of the streets, the cities, and everything else. It's going to be a domino effect. I got to think about it. Taxpayers are the ones going to pay for this. So keep the name of Robert E. Lee, keep the name of John H. Reagan, Lakeview Chiefs. We need to keep our history, remember the history of the past, and learn from it, not erase it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. I appreciate those comments. Anyone else that didn't sign up wishing to speak this evening? Yes, sir. Yeah, would you tell us your name when you get up there to the mic? So that way our recording will capture that.
My name is Larry Miller. I'm a retired school teacher and Air Force veteran, and I certainly hadn't intended to say any words to you, but I quite frankly don't know what I know, and I need to impart this to you because one of the speakers is very proud of this survey/petition that he has to the tune of over 13,000 names, and I need to describe this. It's with an organization called Change.org, which is a very left-leaning organization. All you have to do is get on a computer and get into this area, read the little blurb he's got that describes why he has this petition, and all you do is punch a button. Now that sounds pretty good, except for the fact that it's not controlled, it's not scientific. He says he has 13,000 signatures, but some of those signatures are as far away as Iceland and Ireland. It isn't limited. He put no statement on there that please only someone from the San Angelo area sign up for this thing. He left it open to everybody. So as far as that petition is concerned, it's only an international popularity contest, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Yeah, I think we have someone else. If you do the same thing for me, sir, if you would let us know who you are when you get there, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to start off by saying I didn't know this was a fancy dress affair, so I apologize.
No, don't worry, you're fine.
Secondly, I have no special credentials to offer you today. I'm a
I'm
father.
sorry, did you tell us your name?
Oh, yeah, Michael Brown.
Okay, thanks,
I
Michael.
apologize. I do have an 11-year-old son, and he's going to TLC this year. He should have gone to Lee. Let me explain my first day at Lee to start off. We were stretching out in the gym for I think it was for basketball, and I asked someone next to me, "What is this guy with a big nose and a hat carrying a flag? What is that?" And before he could answer me, our coach, I think his name was Mr. Payne, said, "It's something that used to be racist. It's okay now." And that was it. That was the last I heard at Robert E. Lee about Robert E. Lee in history books and anything. I would also like to ask everybody if they have one of these devices. If you do, would you hold it up? Did you know that you can type in Robert E. Lee into this thing and it will give you gigs of information? You're not losing history. History is right here at your fingertips. You refuse to look at it. Also, I would like to say, your trip to Germany sounds very wonderful. That concentration camp, I'm sure, is full of lots of information, but it is not a junior high. It is not a junior high. It is not a place where young, impressionable minds go every day. I've heard somebody say that nobody will be oppressed from this name. Nobody will lose a job, and you're right. But let me ask you a question. If you had to go to a place every day, if you went to a job every day that slightly put you down, are you going to quit? No. Will it make you earn less money, work less hard? No. But it sure is disrespectful. And I'll tell you one thing. As far as money goes, I would be proud to see a city that would stand behind equality so much that they don't worry about where their tax dollars are going, but they care more about a person, how their lives are lived. I ask for unity of this community, and unity will not happen unless we actually stand together. Unity is never fought with division. We must take positive steps to unite our community in San Angelo. Also, I would like to speak on the petition. The gentleman said, "Oh, there's people all over the world." There's people all over the world, folks, all over the world that are looking at San Angelo, Texas right now who support equality. I ask you, what will you tell the world? How will your response be? Will it be, we are going to save our money and protect our taxes and protect our legacy? Legacy is history. My grandfather was Pete Chapa of the American GI Forum, and he fought for the same thing 30, 40 years ago. He walked to Austin and back twice for this very thing, for people of color getting equality. I ask you today, if your monuments, if your general means so much to you, why have you not petitioned to make a safe spot for it in San Angelo? Why must it be to divide people and keep this? I will put forth, I will help you to make your own General Lee flag or whatever you would like. But our kids are more important than that. Our kid needs positivity. Our children need a new fundamental change in thought. And it hasn't happened yet, guys. It hasn't. And I appreciate your sentiments about the learning process. Yes, we need to focus on that. But how can we say that we truly care about equality when we push somebody and we effigize and make effigies of someone who doesn't. The bottom line is it's discouraging. We can all agree on that. If it's discouraging to somebody, we should change it. My name is Michael Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, I think we have another individual. Be sure and introduce yourself if you don't mind, and do as most everyone did, limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Caleb Wallace. Sorry, I think you called my name. I think you said Walker. I didn't know if that
Oh,
was.
I'm sorry.
If I could correct you or
couldn't-
not.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm the president of the San Angelo Freedom Defenders here in San Angelo. Our birth was on July 4th when this city refused to fly the American flag at the courthouse. We've seen time and time again this city take a stance against its taxpayers. The San Angelo School Board not getting the picture about bonds, multiple votes of telling you no. We're here organized and activated today, not in hate, not in spite of each other, but for love for one another. I come before you today to offer a message of peace, of one of facts, and one of future for all of us to allow us to live here in San Angelo peacefully together. Our focus as defenders of San Angelo is the freedoms here at San Angelo locally. We've seen what we have seen nationally on a national level, participating in national organizations like I did. It fell on deaf ears. But when we started organizing, started becoming a thorn into local leaders, we started seeing some great movement, some great results. We started seeing some great conversations being done, and some people activated that have never been activated before in their life coming forward and to participate with us, whether that be against or for or with arms with us or against us on the other side of the street. That's perfectly fine. We are here to offer that if we cave to this name change, we cave here right now, promise you, you won't see the end of it. They've already got plans for it. They've already got plans to keep pushing. They're already not satisfied with the name of Lee Middle School. They're already not satisfied. You will do nothing. Everything you do will never appease these organizations that associate with terrorists like the Black Lives Matters or Antifa. While they destruct and set cities aflame, people are killed, pulled out of their vehicles for being the wrong color. But yet, they preach to us about color and preach to us about racial discrimination and inequality. It's the same organization that officers refuse to respond to these calls because if they have to respond in a way of violence or one or defense, 51% of all homicides are created by the black community. But yet, they make up such a very small part of our nation. Officers, regular citizens like myself, we don't go anywhere unarmed anymore. Nowhere. I don't feel safe. I know the city of San Angelo SAPD officers are sick and tired of this. They refuse to have this come to our city. But the pressure is on. The pressure is real. Socialists and leftist Marxist people that sit here with us today and those who are organized against us today are well organized, well funded, and they have an agenda. I ask you to pray with your Creator, talk with Him, beg for His mercy and for His guidance on what we should do. I don't know the answer, what the answers all entail for us here at San Angelo. I do know a threat when I see a threat. And this is a threat. Like I said, we encourage all members of the Black Lives Matter Antifa, pro name change, please have a conversation with us. Please refuse to be violent. Please lift up your voice, open up your arms to embrace us and talk with us. That's all we ask. And let's stop playing the race game, name calling. We're brothers and sisters. We're here for the same thing for our children. Why in God's green earth are we talking about race in a school board meeting is beyond me. It's ridiculous. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Susie Smith, and I had not planned to.
You can pull the mic down, Ms. Smith, if you don't. Yeah, that'll be a little better for you. Thank you.
And I had not planned to speak tonight, but something he said reminded me of last Saturday when we gathered at Robert E. Lee Junior High and rallied to keep the name. And we had a lot of people who were driving by and honking. And we had a petition. We were wanting people to come and sign our petition to keep the name. And so then we kind of began texting and letting people know we were there if they wanted to come and sign our petition. So they started coming and signing the petition. And we are getting our signatures from people here in San Angelo who we believe are the ones that should have a voice in this. And as we were gathered there and getting close to our time to finish up, there was a big black truck that came and parked at the far end of the parking lot. And then a speaker system and Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. It was very inspiring. And I got so excited because I thought, wow, we have something we agree on. It's not the color of the skin, it's the content of character. And we do look forward to that time. And we believe that much of his dream was realized. And we've seen black and white children. It's not 100%, not 1%, but we've seen young children like his dream, hand in hand, black and white. And so I got so excited, I said, y'all, when they finish playing this, let's applaud and clap and let them know that we're in agreement. It's not about the color of the skin. It's about the content of character. And so when they finished playing it, and they looped it and played it again. So I just felt compelled to go and to try to dialogue, as was stated. You know, we need to dialogue. So that's what I wanted to do. And so I approached the gentleman at the back of the truck. He had his mask on, he had his earplugs in. And of course, he couldn't hear me because it was blaring so loud, but he could read my lips. And so I was saying, can we talk? We agree. We agree. He says, I can hear you. I hear you. I said, well, can we go over there beside the building, away from the speakers, and talk? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. I said, well, can we go back behind the truck? And we'll be back behind the speakers. He would not dialogue. So then I thought, well, he's not going to talk to me, so I'll move to the fellow who's in the middle of the truck. So I walked over to him to speak to him. And the gentleman at the back of the truck came over and got between us. But he can't speak to you.
So I couldn't hear him, but I understood what he was saying. I said, what? Can't he speak for himself? No. I said, well, that's bullying. And so I turned around and walked away. And I just thought, what a missed opportunity. And so I agree that what we need is dialogue. But I don't think that that's what they're here to do. And as I said when I spoke at the school board meeting before, timing of it, I'm concerned about. The fact that I sense it's coming from outside of San Angelo, I don't see it bubbling up, which is not to say there have not been individual incidences. My kids who are white have been bullied too. And so it's not unique to one race or the other. And I am very concerned because of threats that have been made, guaranteeing that if this name was not changed, this would go national. And that you all would be responsible for the consequences. That is very concerning.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Anyone else wishing to share their thoughts with the board this evening? Okay. We appreciate everyone being here. One other thing that I said that I did fail to say initially is that we can't, because it's not an agenda item, we can't make any official comments. We can ask questions if we didn't understand anything specific, but we can't have a dialogue about that because it's not on our agenda this evening. Everyone in the room probably knows, but the board is set to address this on October 19th. So between now and October 19th, we have a number of opportunities for community input, for a discussion of this particular item as we move forward and address that. So we've got a number of opportunities. If you don't know when those are, you can check the SAISD website and find that information. So again, thanks for being here. We appreciate y'all, and you're welcome to stay as long as you like and hear us talk about what's going on with our students and things like that in our district. If not, again, we thank you for being here. And I think the board will probably take about a 5-minute recess, and then we'll get down to our business for this evening. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll try to restart and go through the rest of our board agenda this evening. Our next item is item 6, which is the report section of our agenda this evening. And first up is an update on academic progress, and Dr. Ritter is going to help us with that. So thanks, Jana.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lehman, Dr. Detloff, members of the board. We have an academic report today to give you an update on where we are with our virtual learning, our digital learning, and our in-person learning that will be beginning this week on Wednesday, August the 19th, which is our first official day of school, and we're very, very excited about that. Regardless of the platform that parents chose for their children, we have really done, I would say, a phenomenal job, all of the teams involved, to prepare for this great day. It's hard to think that it's been 5.5 months since we've had kids in our schools. We had our teachers start last week, and we had everybody on board with all of our staff members. And it was, to be fully staffed last week was quite an accomplishment, and it's been a really exciting week for us as we're getting ready for kids. So tomorrow we will be sending out notification about the virtual academy learning and how students will be accessing that. So we informed parents about that today on a Facebook Live. So we'll be sending out an email through Swift K-12 with a link to the Schoology platform. And Schoology, again, is our learning management system, which is a platform where everything lives. So our teachers and our students will be accessing all of the lessons and the learning and resources through the Schoology learning management system. So when they receive the email, it will provide more information to them about their own personal experience that they're going to have with the Schoology learning management system. So all students in the district will have a Schoology account, so every student will have access to a Schoology account. But the students who are receiving the information about the virtual academy, that is how they were going to access all of their virtual academy learning, is through the Schoology account. There will be a link to Edgenuity, which is our virtual academy platform. Also, we have digital support teachers who are our own SAISD teachers who will be providing support to all of our students in the district through the Schoology platform and helping them with their Edgenuity work and communication with them and their parents as well. As we know, we're doing a little bit of a blended approach because we have all of our high school students on a 2-week delay for in-person. So all of our high school students will be starting online with digital learning, and they will be receiving this email also where they will have the link to their Schoology account. They will access all of their learning through their Schoology account. So those emails will be going out tomorrow for all of the students in the district to have this information. So one thing is we are asking our high school kiddos, just because we are taking attendance now, and that's a different kind of a challenge for us because it was different from last spring, that they will be needing to access their learning by 9:30 in the morning so that we know that we are accounting for all of our kids who are in that high school platform. So they can certainly get in there earlier, and they can access their learning really at any time through the day, but for the first week of school, we're asking that they access at 9:30, and that will be covered in that email as well, going to parents. So our first week with the learning is going to be familiarizing our students with Schoology, helping them to learn that in the virtual academy and the digital learning, what it is, what that means, and then just even our in-person students, our focus is to help them just get used to coming back to school and building those relationships and having us kind of check on them, see how they're doing, and check in, find out how, what their needs are, and communicating with parents. So we're just going to be taking it slow. We're not going to hit heavy academics right off of the bat. We're going to take our time and just help our students to become acclimated to our virtual platform support that we will be providing to all of them. So that is a lot about what we're doing this week, starting on Wednesday, first day of school, for our instructional platforms. And I have a video to show you. Some of you may have seen this. Brandon Lagon, who is one of our digital innovation facilitators, who is on our curriculum and instruction team along with Jennifer Feck. But Brandon was able to go and do this little video to kind of help our parents and our students understand what it's going to be like when school starts, when you're coming in person. So this is a fun little video to show you, and so I hope you enjoy this.
Hey guys, it's Brandon Lagon with SAISD, and we know you guys are all excited to get on back to school. I know I am. Just wanted to give you a little preview of what you can expect that first day of school. Things are going to be a little bit different, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a good time, it's going to be a safe time, because that's what we're all about. Let's go on in, but first things first, I need my mask. Now I'm ready. Remember, grades 4 and 5, elementary school, you guys need to be wearing your mask. Let's go on in. Oh, and by the way, parents, we've got it from here. We want to reduce the amount of visitors that we have coming in and out of the building. So, we've got it from here. No worries, it's going to be fine. All right, let's go on in. Oh, it's so great seeing all my teachers again. It's even greater knowing all teachers and staff are screened daily in regards to COVID-19. Yeah, it's gonna be a good day. Teachers will greet you at the door, just like normal. It'll look a little bit different. Maybe not a high five or a hug. We can definitely give a good elbow. Yeah. And they're gonna slap you down with a little sanitizer, just to make sure you're clean walking into the building. Teachers will be practicing social distancing within the classroom. So when I get in here, I could be sitting here, maybe here, or over here. Wherever we are in the classroom, we will definitely be practicing social distancing and making sure that everybody's space is respected in the classroom. These are my supplies and my supplies only. We won't be sharing supplies like we normally do, so I get all my special pencils to myself. I'm okay with that. Common areas will be wiped down periodically throughout the day to ensure cleanliness everywhere you go. With all the learning that's going on, you're definitely gonna work up an appetite, and lunch has got to go down. It'll look a little bit differently, but don't worry. You're still gonna get to socialize and enjoy your lunch. You're just gonna be, spread out a little bit more. It can look a little bit like this. I could be here, and maybe over here. But don't worry, we're still gonna be able to chat. Whew. That was a great day at school. Looking forward to tomorrow. We want to thank you guys and understand that SAISD is committed to the safety and the well-being of all of our students, academically, social, emotionally, and safety-wise. So we're going to make sure that we cover all of our bases, and we appreciate your patience and understanding as we navigate through these rather difficult times. But we're in this together, so let's make this happen and let's have an awesome school year. We'll see you August 19th.
That was a little informational video that went out, and we're making several of these, and Brandon's quite the star in these videos. He's a natural, and our people love to see him, and he adds a little humor to it, and we hope that that's going to just help people feel a little more comfortable, and he's doing several others for the beginning of school also to give some information. So along with that, I'd like to invite Mr. Wes Underwood, our Chief of School Leadership, to come to the microphone so that he can share with you some of the changes and things to look for in the physical spaces in our schools starting Wednesday.
President Lehman, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dutloff. So yeah, Brandon did a great job with those videos and kind of highlights a few of the changes that we've made in our procedures throughout the day. But we've also made some changes as far as schedules look like, what our arrival and dismissal looks like in the morning. So some of that has been adjusted where kids are coming in so that we have more entry points and less congregation of large amounts of students. So we've worked on that. Distancing in our classrooms that you saw Brandon in that video doing when he was sitting around in various parts of the classroom. And then also with our cafeteria, making sure that we do have some staggered seating in our cafeteria as well. Students are going to look a little different when they walk through and they get a box lunch as opposed to a tray lunch that are individually prepared. And then adjusting our schedule so that those classes in elementary and even to a good extent to our middle school are sticking together as much as possible and not interacting overall. So we've kind of looked at what that looks like in social distancing in all those areas and also working on those in our transitions as well.
Thanks, Dr. Ritter. Mr. Underwood, any questions for Mr. Gallegos?
When they mentioned the common areas wiping down, like, will the teachers be supplied all that?
Yes, sir. They have sanitation and some paper towels in each classroom.
We'll be supplying all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Do we have like an official registered number of students this year?
You want to answer that?
course, this year more than ever, we're going to know more those first 3 days of school. But our final virtual, we're right at 4,500 students. And then we're just under 10,000 students that are registered officially for in-person. So we'll see how many come to school. So we'll be doing those daily attendance checks and accounting for attendance every day.
When does the TEA officially start counting students in the classroom?
Well, this year is very different because we do have a grace period of 12 weeks for ADA, which is very helpful. They know that we will be recovering students, and they also do not want to penalize districts as we have that opportunity to provide virtual learning for our students. So we will be still reporting to TEA, but the official for them starts, and we have that grace period for 12 weeks for ADA.
Good. Other questions or comments concerning our academic report this evening?
Mr. Lehman, I do have a comment to add, please.
Sure.
First, I just want to thank Dr. Ritter and Mr. Underwood for their work in their respective departments, really for lifting the start of school up and making that a priority. I think this year more than ever, attendance, safety, learning, and COVID are all interlocked. And so, as we work to provide an environment that is safe, conducive to learning, and also, provide a healthy and well environment for our staff is critical. For our viewership today that may be tuning into this board meeting, I do want to certainly be frank and honest that this is very similar to a ping pong match. So we're going to be bouncing up and down in attendance. We will be bouncing up and down in closures, in quarantines, classroom closures, perhaps building closures, campus closures. So I do think as information is evolving, we want to certainly be transparent. We are working in very close partnership with our local health officials and local health authorities with CDC, and we, in that partnership, we have created great plans really to promote the health and wellness of not only our community, but our teaching staff and students as families as well. So there will be classroom closures, there will be quarantines, and the CDC is working really hand in hand with us in the notification process. In doing that, I think the platforms, the learning management system platforms that we have, our district and our curriculum instruction office and department, they were on top of this from the beginning and utilized the Schoology platform about 2 months before the Texas Education Agency called it a preferred platform and made it available to all districts around the state as well. As we look at our transforming engagement plan and the safety precautions, Mr. Underwood has done a robust job of doing the best we can with dynamic conditions to ensure that we are providing the safest environment for all as we start school. So we've got about a 30-hour period and school starts. And we are excited about that. I think many of us in this room had the privilege to participate at Angelo State University this morning. I was invited by Senator Cornyn's office and to represent our public schools in San Angelo, and I was honored to do that as we talked about the CARES Act funding and as we talked about President Hawkins' tenure as president of Angelo State University. In doing that, just walking on the ASU campus this morning, there were probably 95% of students wearing masks and practicing safety precautions at Angelo State University. And we all agreed in conversations that there was a great energy in the air because our students are back. There will be challenges and hurdles and obstacles, but the silver lining of having our students back is why we show up for this most noble profession. So we're excited about the start of school. We're excited about, this is why we signed up for this job, to have kids in class, And so we're excited about the opportunities, and we're excited about the choice that we are providing our constituents to choose that virtual academy or to choose in-person instruction with the safety modifications necessary. So it's been a good day in San Angelo, and we are excited that school is going to start, and we cannot wait to just get our kids back, because they bring the joy in this profession, and we're just excited to launch our new academic year. So thank you for all your work on this, and Mr. Lehman, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Detloff. Our next item is actually item C, 2020-2021 Child Care Services. This is a public hearing, and Ms. Hullahan's going to help us with that. Thanks, Shelley.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Board members, Dr. Detloff, this is a required public hearing for the San Angelo YMCA after-school program, which began in 1989, 31 years ago. The YMCA after-school program gives working parents peace of mind by providing supervised care for their children by a professional staff team. The after-school program practices 4 core values: caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility. This program is licensed through the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. The YMCA program provides on-site care at all of our elementary campuses. Due to COVID-19, the YMCA had to add a cap at all schools, a 1-to-10 ratio rather than a 1-to-26 ratio as in the past years. All YMCA staff have been trained in COVID cleaning protocols as well as safety protocols, and including specifically drop-off and pickup procedures. Registration can be completed at the YMCA site. Additional information can be found on the YMCA website, which is www.ymcasanangelo.org. We appreciate the continued partnership with the YMCA and their services they provide to our students, parents, and community. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Any questions about Ms. Hullahan's report? If not, we'll move forward. Thank you. Our next item are consent items, items A through E. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent items A through E.
Second.
So we have a motion from Dr. Kingman and a second from Mr. Parker to approve our consent items A through E. Item A is to consider superintendent's recommendations for personnel for school year 2021. Dr. Gomez provided that information to us in our previous pre-agenda board workshop. No additions to that. Well, those are all new since our vote last week. Item B is considered T-test certified appraisers. She did supply that list for us. Item C is considered bid number 20-007 for office supplies, equipment, and furniture. Mr. Henry reviewed that with us last week. Item D is to consider bid number 20-008 for printer cartridge. Again, Mr. Henry reviewed that bid with us last week. And item E is to consider changes to CO local and EIC local board policies. And Ms. Hullahan reviewed those in our pre-agenda board workshop. Any questions or comments, or do we need to pull any of those for further discussion? Okay, so in case that wasn't heard by our TV folks, that we've got an addition to that for Dr. McFarland. He was previously approved as a T-test appraiser, and he'll shift into our system and be an approved appraiser as well. Other questions or comments? Do we have any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Item 8 is consider bills, accounts, and financial statements for the month of July of 2020. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez and a second from Mr. Dindal to approve our bills, accounts, and financial statements for the month of July of 2020. Any further board questions or comments?
Mr. Lehman, just a note to those watching on TV that all these reports were reviewed and previewed in our pre-agenda meeting last week. And all these reports can be found online in their entirety, scisd.org, under the, I'm trying to remember what tab, I'm sorry. Dr. McFarland, help me with that? Financial transparency, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So anybody wishing to check that, please take time to do so. Is there any public comment concerning our motion? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 9, to ratify administration's action and operation connectivity interlocal acquisition agreement with Region 4 Education Service Center for technology purchases. Thanks for that long-winded item, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Dole.
Good evening. Yes, the Service Center Region 4 wrote what that heading, or TEA did, one of the two. Due to COVID, it has caused a backlog and a shortage in delivery of technology-type items, for instance, laptops, Chromebooks, iPads, any kind of technology items, because many of the components are made either like in China, Indonesia, countries that for a period of time shut down or drastically cut back their workforce due to the COVID situation, and as a result, that slowed production of product. So TEA recognizes the need that school districts have in the times we're in for needing more devices to provide online learning resources, and so they're trying to help school districts to acquire more devices for their districts. So they've been working in partnership with several vendors, and they partnered with ESC4 to partner with them on a bid that they had already put out for devices and hotspots. And so we have chosen to participate in that purchase, and those TEA is working with those vendors to prioritize the orders that happen as part of TEA's bulk order on behalf of school districts. The other part, our nice part to this, is TEA will pay half of our bill as part of their grant, and I believe it's CARES funding that they're using, but I don't know that part for sure what TEA is using on their side. But as part of this process, because TEA partners with ESC Region 4, we have to do a ratification to, as part of the purchasing process to, that goes with this order. We are ordering 1,000 laptops, and we are ordering 800 hotspots. Those are the ones that we can get here the fastest that were on our options list. So we're hoping in the next month to receive those items. And TEA will pay half of the bill for the hotspot bill for the year.
Thank you, Ms. Dole. Any questions concerning? We also discussed this in length last week at our pre-agenda board meeting. Other questions or comments from our board team? Do we have a motion? Go ahead.
I have a question. I'm excited about the 800 hotspots. How far will that go in covering the kids who are missing Wi-Fi in their homes?
Well, campuses are still getting numbers right now on, we have around 235 right now that campuses are using that we acquired back in the spring, and that we had passed out at that time. And so they're passing those out right now and then making a list of who still also needs hotspots. I've also sent a message to our local internet providers and asking, do they have any reduced rate options for families at this time? You know, some did some specials back in the spring when COVID first started. So I'm trying to see if any still do. And if we do get responses, I'll put a summary list of that together that we can share as possible options also with families if they want to purchase their own, hopefully at a discounted rate.
Mr. Lehman, may I?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Detloff.
Thank you. I do want to also really just restate that connectivity, learning, our digital platforms are certainly more important than ever As part of that, I do want to thank Charlene Doyle and her group and many other administrators for really mobilizing a technology help desk as in the first 3 days of school, and really starting this week, I believe, from 5 to 9 this evening. So they're on it right now.
That's where I'm about to
They're
go
on
to
it
take
right
my
now.
turn.
So not only is technology providing additional help desk hours, but transportation is as well. So just as an effort at customer service and making certain that our families feel comfortable in a new digital environment, as well as transportation in a new age, we are providing help desk additional hours, 5 to 9, I believe Monday through Wednesday? Thursday, Monday through Thursday from 5 to 9 p.m. So thank you to Charlene and her staff for making that come to fruition and mobilizing that. And thank you to the many administrators that are helping prop that up as well. So thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions or comments?
Just a comment also, Charlene, you've done a wonderful job, you and your staff, since, March, when all this started. Y'all stepped up, y'all got it done quick, and
Thank you.
really, again, thank you. Y'all have done a wonderful job.
I have an awesome team. I'm very thankful. I have a great team who works great together, and they truly try to go above and beyond and try to make sure things work well for the end users and meet the end user needs.
So we don't have a motion. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to ratify the administration's action in the operation connectivity interlocal acquisition agreement with Region 4 Education Services Center for Technology purchases.
Second.
So we have a motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mr. Dindal. Further questions or comments from our board team? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Parker.
I'm going to get a flag. You know, just kind of wait.
Maybe I have a hearing loss. We have a third from Mr. Dindal. So any other board questions or comments, any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our last item this evening is to consider resolution regarding exclusion from extracurricular activities and elective courses. And Ms. Houlihan's going to help us with that. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Board members, Dr. Detloff. Rodney Chan, our athletic director, met with athletic directors from our region regarding the upcoming school year and the expectation of competing in extracurricular activities. Based on those conversations, we are asking the board to approve the following resolution. A student that voluntarily chooses to participate in virtual remote instructional methods will be required to attend on-campus extracurricular activity periods during the school day in order to participate in extracurricular activity. A student who chooses not to attend the on-campus extracurricular activity periods will not be allowed to participate in extracurricular activity. The board did ask at our pre-agenda if other boards approved this similar resolution, and our athletic director did not know. I will tell you, TASB did have a resolution, though, and so when I asked them for this resolution, they had it ready for me. So I'm assuming that boards did ask for this, but Mr. Chant did not know if other boards did approve this resolution. He did say, though, that this was the expectation that other athletic directors in our region were going to expect. This resolution would not only include athletics, but would also include fine arts in our district. The administration is asking that you approve this resolution for the 2021 school year. And I think that was the other question. Is it only for athletics or is it for fine arts? And checking with Tiffany Hubner and Wes Underwood, they all concurred that it also includes fine arts.
Questions for Shelley? Shelley, when you say this region, do you mean Region 15 or
No,
our district competitors?
Our district competitors.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve the resolution of the board regarding exclusion from extracurricular activities and elective courses.
Second.
So we have a motion from Mr. Dendel, I think I got that right this time, and a second from Dr. Kingman. Any other board questions or comments? Any public comment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye, any opposed? Our motion passes. Our announcements or our finance and pre-agenda board workshop is September the 14th. Our regular board meeting is September 21st. And the TASB virtual convention will take place September 30th through October 2nd. Do we need any reason to go into closed session this evening? Any board member have a reason to go into closed session?
Just a question. We do have a meeting next week as well, don't we?
We do. That's next Monday. We'll be approving tax rate and budgeted, our final budget. Yeah, thanks, Taylor. Other questions or comments? Any other board business? If not, and hearing no objection, we'll stand adjourned.